Hello there.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Kayla.
And we just want to talk movies. Today is a very special episode because I finally get to talk about Heartstopper.
Yay.
Oh my god, I know I'm so incredibly late to the party, but that's just how I roll.
It's true. I've been trying to convince her to get on this train for quite a while. I've been alone on this train for quite a while, and now I have company. The whole family, apparently, now is hooked on it. So
we've got to have a huge watch party when you get back.
Yes. I don't want to cry in front of everyone. I will.
Hopefully I won't cry during this episode. But
Yeah.
I might. I don't know. You never know. Before we get into it, just some brief movie news. I think we each have one piece of news. So mine is very interesting. There has been the announcement of a new Daisy Ridley movie. Oh, so excited. It is a romantic comedy called The Last Resort. And I'm just going to read the little summary here that made me lose my mind. Okay. A career-focused woman travels to the Philippines to evaluate a potential resort site. Amidst stunning landscapes and friendly locals, she unexpectedly finds herself drawn to the country's beauty and a charismatic pilot named Ben. The character of Ben, played by Alden Ehrenreich, aka Han Solo from Solo: A Star Wars Story.
It's all connected. It all
If
comes
this is
back
not
to
Star
Rainbow.
Wars fan fiction, that's a lie.
My news is going to be real quick. It's kind of Stranger Things news, but kind of not. Apparently, Sadie Sink, who plays Max in Stranger Things, has been cast in the new Spider-Man movie, which is very, very intriguing to me because who the heck is she going to play? People have been theorizing Mary Jane, Jean Grey, which I would love to see, and then some other characters who I don't know because I haven't read the comics. So, we shall see. They are being tight-lipped about it, but I think that's pretty cool. I mean, if any Marvel thing she was going to be cast in, I would prefer Spider-Man because I like Spider-Man. Everything else I'm kind of about. So it made me excited, but we'll see what happens with that.
It is time to get into Heartstopper, and we have much to talk about. So we'll just start with season 1.
Where it all began.
Speak about that? Yeah. Season 1 of Heartstopper. I think the first thing we have to talk about is the casting for this show. Which is
incredible.
Some of the best casting I've ever seen in my life.
It's the books come to life, literally.
Yes. It is actually insane how much Kit Connor and Joe Locke literally look like the graphic novel just...
Yeah.
They stepped out of the
I remember
page.
because I watched the show before I read the books, and when I read the books, I was like, what? This wasn't made after? They look like the actors.
It's crazy. Everything from just like the strands of Charlie's hair that look exactly how they do in the book to Kit Connor somehow doing the exact same little smirky grin that looks like it's only possible on a cartoon character, but he somehow does. I'm like, what? And it's so funny to me how Kit originally auditioned for Charlie, and even as he was auditioning, he knew, he's like, this isn't a right fit, but I'm just gonna audition just for the experience, basically. And then as soon as they saw him, they're like, that's
Nick.
literally Nick Nelson. Yeah, I love these two leads so much. I've been watching just endless interviews with them both, and they are so adorable. They're the cutest freaking things I've ever seen on this planet, I think. I love Joe Locke's story especially because this is his first acting job ever, like in any professional capacity, which is insane when you see how good he is. I'm like, oh my god. And I love the story of how, like, he didn't have an agent or anything. He just had heard about the casting for this show. He didn't even have a headshot of himself, so he had to, like, take it on his phone, Like, he put his phone on a stack of books in his room
my
and just
gosh.
took his own headshot. I'm like, I love stories like that.
He was 17 also, wasn't he?
Yeah.
They were both really young.
Yeah. And that's another thing, the accuracy of the age is very refreshing. We finally don't have 30-year-olds playing teens. They actually look like teens. And yeah, very much like that. Everyone else is amazing too. You have Yasmin Finney as Elle. She's gorgeous. You have William Gao as Tao Su. Literally, the first few episodes, I did not like Tao at all. But the way that William Gao plays him is, like, you cannot help but love him, even when he's kind of being a jerk. And then just his arc throughout the show, one of the best. Sebastian Croft as Ben Hope.
Evil man.
Okay,
Evil.
this man. This is one of the most hateable characters ever. Just anytime you see him, you want to sock him in the face. But the actor, literally any other place I've seen him, like, just off screen being himself, is just the biggest ball of sunshine I've ever seen.
That's kind of another Star Wars crossover, because how's his name Ben Hope? That's kind of crazy.
Dude. Yeah, hashtag not my Ben Hope, but...
No.
Yeah, so I just love every single performance. It's all perfect. Every single actor brings out all of the feelings that you are meant to feel, whether it is intense hatred
Yes.
or intense love. So that is just lovely. Something else that is very much appreciated is all the little animations throughout that even more makes it feel like the graphic novel has come to life. I live for any time the leaves float across the screen when it's meant to symbolize that someone's, like, having their moment. And
I like how it's not necessarily overused, but it does enough that it lets you know, like, the exact emotional framing that is supposed to be intended in the show. Even before I'd read the books and I watched it, I was like, oh, this is all definitely in the comics, and that's so cool that they, like, found a way to weave it in that's not, like, too in your face, but fits in with the tone really well. And yeah, even after reading the books, it's even better.
it was just, and it gives it its own unique feel.
Yep.
Too. Because they're not trying to be like, oh, this is the edgy teen version of the story. It's like, no, it's literally the books in live action. So this first season 1 is my favorite. It's just like this sweet little story. It's very concise. It moves along at a perfect pace, which I struggle with shows a lot, but I loved the pacing in this show. I was never bored, never a slow episode or anything like that. And I like how it tells a complete story. Where, like, obviously, like, yeah, we want to know more on what happens next, but also if this were just the end, it would be a perfect, cute little romance story. The side characters really surprised me because the books pretty much just focus on Nick and Charlie exclusively. And obviously with the show, I knew beforehand, like, okay, they're going to dive more into side characters, which I'm not always a fan of. I don't love side characters in TV a lot of the time. But immediately, with all of the side characters, whether it's Elle and Tao or Tara and Darcy, I was just obsessed with everyone. And yeah, like I said, there's never a dull moment. Everyone's story is very interesting and exciting and romantic. And you just love all of these characters and you want to see them happy, and it's so adorable. And yeah, as I said, Tao's arc is really amazing because I mean, even I watched season 3 last night and I was just thinking throughout the show, I'm like, it's so, like, he is not the same person at all he was in season 1.
Nope.
And it's so crazy to see his journey. I mean, here he starts off, he's very clingy, you know, very much has abandonment issues, and he kind of, projects onto everyone else. And it's like, oh, dude, you need to calm down. But at the same time, he's still like a likable character, especially when he's going head to head with the bully character. Oh, those scenes are hilarious. His comebacks every single time
Oh,
just
yes.
stump. Like, the guy doesn't know what to say and he just has to walk away. Like, yes.
I'm telling you, there are many Tao haters out there, which I understand just because I didn't like him in the first season. But I understood him also. So, like, I wasn't as much of a hater as many people are. I knew that he had hope he would develop. But you need Tao there. He is essential to the story because he provides the comedic relief. And without him in season 3, I would have been lost. I would have been in the trenches. If he were not there, I don't know what would have happened to me. So I just, and also with the comebacks for the bully, like, they're funny and they, like, don't make light of the situation, but they make it less like, oh, this sucks. No, we have Tao here to kick some butt.
Yes.
And that is why he's essential. And he makes you feel better when he's on screen for most of the show. Of course, there's a few moments where he's really annoying, but I am a Tao defender until I die.
Yes. Same. He grew on me pretty much instantly. I was just like, okay, yeah, I like him. And it's funny, he's, from what I remember, very different from how he is in the book. In the book, I feel like he was a bit more quiet and
yeah, they definitely toned up his flaws and also his attributes in the show.
Yeah, and I think that was definitely a good addition for a TV show format of this story. Yeah, and pretty much with this story in general, it's very honest about the lows of, yes, being a queer person, but also just being a teenager and going to school and going through life and all that. It's honest about the stuff that sucks and the stuff that really does happen, but there is just pretty much 100% focus on hope and joy and love and friendship and just an overall positive look at queer relationships and queer love and all of that, which is so refreshing. And I think that this should be like a subgenre in its own right, because Red, White, and Royal Blue is very much the same way. Like, it's honest about the bad stuff that happens, but overall it's hopeful and positive, and I think that needs to be just a subgenre of film at this point.
Well, I've heard people call this and also Red, White, and Royal Blue like a queer utopia. So that could be the title of the genre.
Yes, that is perfect.
That's how I felt when I first watched this show. I had not watched a show in a long time, one that had teenagers playing teenagers. I mean, Stranger Things was kind of like the only one that I hadn't watched in a while. And then not only that, but like where it was just a queer-centered story that was like told as if it were a happy straight couple story, which I hadn't seen. So I was like, this is like a straight show, but for gay people. But like, it doesn't have to be like that. We can just have happy stories. I hadn't seen a non-sad story about gay people, I don't think, ever at the time that I watched it. So it was a big deal for me. And also, again, like Emily was saying, it did have a really realistic view of, and especially in season 3, I feel like they really went into that. But even at the time when I watched season 1, I felt very seen by it. It didn't feel like a show that was about teenagers, that was written by older people who were trying to say, hey, fellow kids. It felt real. And I remember Nick Nelson is a very important character to me because I don't think I'd ever related to a character that heavily in a show. So I remember being like, whoa, this is me.
Yes.
And then, after that, it was just history. I watched all the rest of them as soon as they came out, and I loved them.
Yeah. There's definitely many tears of pain and happiness, I would say. But mostly in season 1, it is tears of happiness, because I just feel so snuggly and warm when I watch this show. And Nick's whole discovery of being bi is, I love the way it's done. Some people say it's goofy with him like taking the "Am I gay?" quiz, but
But like that's part of it.
yes, we've all taken that. Like, come on. And every time I see it, I get like so emotional because his reaction to it, where like he's so confused and he's crying because like he did not ever expect this, and he doesn't know what to think. All of a sudden, everything about himself has changed, and Kit Connor's acting is phenomenal in that whole sequence. Yeah, overall, this season is pretty much just perfection to me. I think it's the most rewatchable for me personally. I started watching this show like less than a month ago. I've rewatched season 1, I think 5 times now.
It's
I
very
have it
rewatchable.
on constantly, whether I'm watching it or I just have it on in the background. I love it. My favorite episode, this was very hard because this is one of those shows where you start on episode 1 and then every episode I'm like, oh, this is my favorite. Oh, this is my favorite. Oh, this one's my favorite. So it's very hard to narrow it down, but I decided that episode 3, Kiss, is my favorite of this season. I think because I don't know, I love Nick and Charlie's interactions throughout the entire party, where Nick is just so done with everyone and just wants to be alone with Charlie. And of
then he
course,
sees Charlie and he's like, Charlie.
yeah, he's like, I don't know. Oh, thank God. And that happens like several times. It was so accurate to the book. And just, of course, the first kiss, so romantic. And then it gets like kind of sad because you're like, oh, we just ran away and that was really horrible. But then the next morning when he's there at the front door in the rain, you're like, oh, yay.
Yeah. It doesn't let you down for too long.
Exactly. And that's what this show's all about. They're like, okay, we'll make you a little sad, but don't worry because pretty soon it's going to be happy again. So that's my favorite episode of season 1. Do you have a favorite episode?
My favorite episode, I also put Kiss at first, but then I kept thinking about the last episode in the season, and I was like, I think it's my favorite. Just because there's the scene where they, like, make up and get back together. And there's this is the scene that got me to watch the show, actually. I saw this clip on Instagram. And there's a part where I can't remember what the line is exactly, but he's saying, like, none of it is Charlie's fault, 'cause Charlie blames himself for everything. And he's like, no, I like you, and you like me, and that's all that matters. And he says something like, I need you, ... to understand me. And when he says, I need you, and then to understand me, I was like, oh, the angst.
Yes.
So then I was like, okay, I'm going to watch. And then also, of course, there's the scene where Nick comes out to his mom, which still to this day makes me cry. And I've watched season 1 as well, I think 5-6 times probably. I don't think I've ever gotten through that scene without getting a little tear in my eye. Just there's something so comforting about Olivia Colman, and especially as like the type of mom that she is in the show. It's so lovely. And you can tell why Nick is so well adjusted. It's because of her.
Yes, definitely. All right, well, moving on to season 2. This season is a lot of fun because we have the Paris trip, the iconic Paris trip.
It's the best season. This is objectively the best season, and I won't hear anything different. Listen, hold on.
Hold on.
Okay, so the budget obviously goes up. The styling, the lighting, the cinematography, everything looks like elevated from season 1. It's incredible. And then we have so many arcs going on at the same time. And this is the season that I think every side character is dealt with in a really, like, I'm compelled by every one of their stories. There's not one that I feel like they kind of just like came up with something random and we're like, we'll throw it in here and there so that you remember these characters are here. And that happens a lot in shows. This season is so tight, and everyone gets a chance to shine, and everyone develops, and there's also Paris, and it's so fun, and it's lovely, and also, I love Imogen.
Imogen. Yeah, I love...
Imogen is probably my second favorite character. She's also very relatable.
Yes. She, sometimes, I'll, like, roll my eyes at her, but then I'm like, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
That's literally me.
I'm not homophobic or anything. I'm an ally.
That's everyone's favorite.
We thank you for your service.
Imogen is iconic. I was unsure about
She
her. Same with Tao. Her first couple episodes, season 1, I'm like, I don't really know about this girl. She's kind of annoying. But then after her gracious reaction to Nick pretty much ditching her as he figures himself out, I'm like, oh, you know what? I think she's cool. And something I love about this show in general, but it really gets started this season, is the friend group becomes pretty established because we have Nick and Imogen joining, and it's the cutest thing ever. Their circle of friends. I love all of these people, and any scenes with them where they're like having a get together or anything is so pure, and I love it. And yeah, the side characters continue to grow. We have a lot with Isaac this season, who's he's a really interesting character who I guess is supposed to be what's his name? Aled?
Oh yeah.
Or
I was gonna say Ali.
from the book. Ali. From the book, and of course much more expanded upon in the show.
I remember,
and he's just so adorable.
Yeah, I always thought to myself, we need asexual representation in the media because you just don't see them anywhere. And they exist. And so when Isaac came along, I was like, oh my gosh. And his arc is so beautiful. And I really love him as a character. He also loves to read, which is so me. I love that he just I love the nonchalance that he has. I mean, it doesn't last the entire show, but I like that he's like, he doesn't need to get involved in the drama. He just wants to read his book. And then when he gets annoyed with people, he lets them know.
Yeah. And he's like, I'll be there for you if you need me. But also leave me alone because I'm reading. Like, I feel that. An unfortunate character addition we have is Ben, who is pretty much a main antagonist this season.
He definitely, they expand upon his villainy in the show when he's really not much of he's like the catalyst in season 1, but then you never really, or book 1, I mean, and then you never really care about him again. But he lingers.
I think it was, he lingers, and as much as I cannot stand him, and I'm like about to choke him out, and was hoping actually for a death scene for him, honestly.
We kept theorizing that Tori killed him.
I think until it's proven otherwise, that is true for me. 100%.
I'll believe it. And I support women's rights and women's wrongs.
Yes. Well, that was not a wrong.
No. Your Honor, she's innocent. She did it all, but she was innocent.
Yeah, so as much as he did aggravate me, I do think that expanding upon him was a good choice. Because that was one thing in the books, it was kind of weird to me how he just disappeared. And I'm like, well, like, where did this guy go? Because I feel like he would linger. And sure enough, he did in the show. And I have to say, moments with villain characters in this show are incredibly sinister. Like, there are many with Ben and then Nick's brother David. There are scenes with these men where it feels genuinely terrifying, which wasn't as much in the books. In the books, it was kind of just them being ding-dongs, and you're like, get out of here. You're stupid. In this one, there's like this threat with them that you're like, okay, am I gonna call the police? Literally, I got jump scared in season 1 when Charlie's walking away from the movie theater, and the way it's shot,
my
I'm
God,
like,
that scene.
Why does this feel like a horror movie? And then Ben comes walking up, I'm like, what is about to happen?
I remember watching that the first time. I was like, is this show gonna take a tonal shift or something?
I know, I was kind of worried. I'm like, okay, but yeah, I think that, again, it's done pretty well because people like that are terrifying. And there are many
and
people
especially
like
when you're that young and a teenager, like, that is the things in your life that are scary.
Yeah, I mean, for me, as an adult. Like, why are
Yeah.
you following me in the dark alone? Like, go
Well,
away.
he is a creep. We do establish that pretty early on that he's a creep. So it makes sense when that scene happens that you're like, oh, God.
Yeah. And just, like, following you everywhere and being like, I don't like you. You're obsessed with me. Like,
You
what,
are following
sir?
me in the dark, sir.
Sir. And I have to say that my king, Charlie Spring, puts Ben in his place not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times in this show. He stands on business and is like, excuse me, sir, I don't think so. That's why I love Charlie Spring. But anyway.
I do love it.
4 freaking times he stands up to this man. Every time he keeps coming back, he's like, no. Step back.
My favorite is,
love it.
I feel like more people need to, like, really watch the scene where he's like, I'm glad that you've decided to try and become a better person, but I don't want to be there to see that. Because that's okay. Like,
Yes.
people can change, but if they've hurt you that heavily, you don't have to forgive them.
No one owes you that. Especially Ben. Like, just leave.
Nope.
So, all that stuff, irritating as it was irritating in a good way because it ended up being quite satisfying. How it was concluded.
Yes, the tension was built excellently.
Yes.
Can we talk about the freaking Paris trip?
Yes. The Paris trip is just as amazing as it was in the book. Just as fun.
Yes.
We have
It's my
Mr.
favorite thing
Farouk
ever.
and Mr. Ajayi and their relationship.
They're my favorite.
Amazing.
They're my favorite.
I love them so much.
That's what I'm saying. All the side characters, like, you are so fully in it with them. This is the season where I felt that the most. There was nothing boring. There was nothing that I didn't really care that much about.
Yeah, I would agree this season as well. We do get into some more serious stuff. Obviously, Nick and Charlie's relationship is progressing, and there start to be some problems. Like, Charlie doesn't want to do his schoolwork now, so his parents are like, I don't know, sir.
I feel like, though, looking back, that the schoolwork thing had less to do with his relationship with Nick and more to do with his mental health, even then. And it sucks that, like, no one really saw that.
That's true. And we start to get into the eating disorder stuff as well. And then especially with the very last episode, it very much gives a hint to the direction we're going next season. It's like, ooh.
Yep.
You have Nick's stupid brother David who comes and
there's so much family drama with Nick that I'm like, yes, this is so juicy and I love it. When Olivia Colman puts the dad in his place, like, so calmly, so queenly, and
elegantly.
I just love her.
Yes.
And then when the dad is like, tells the brother, "You're not the man I hoped you'd become," and then she's like, "You don't get to say that."
Listen, trash. So it definitely a bit more serious throughout the show. Than before. You also have Darcy and her home life that we get to see.
Yeah, which I thought was really cool. Which I can't remember if that was in the graphic novels. If it was, it wasn't explored much.
Yeah, it was mentioned. I remember they're like, she has a rough time at home, and that was kind of all that was said. So glad that it was expanded upon here.
And I really love. That's a really good graphic of when she's walking down the street and, like, it gets overtaken with black and scribbles. It looks really pretty. I love it.
Yeah. Show the toxic energy. But of course, it is still plenty hopeful. It is still very positive and happy.
And very fun. And coming of age. And Tao and Elle. And Tao and Elle. And Tao and Elle. And I love them.
Yes, everything is still just so cute and romantic. And I'm living because Paris. Oh.
Now this season was when they started to get backlash because there was no sex in the show. And I truly don't understand. They're like,
it's a little early for that.
The argument was, it's like our one, like, big gay show representation, and they're, like, too afraid to show sex. but it's also about kids. And they show a lot of, like, heavy making out. So I feel like that's enough, y'all. First of all.
It's enough for the children, okay?
I love the way that they talk about sex in the show because they are children. They're very sensitive with it, but also I feel like you could say this about all the topics that they cover. They're very sensitive about it, but they're also not afraid to show, like, the messiness of it. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand that complaint. And also, if any of these people who had complained had read the graphic novels, they would have known what was to greet them in season 3.
What was to greet them? Yes. I think what I love about this show is that it grows with the characters. Season 1 is just so adorable and innocent, and then in this one they're getting a little older, so things get a bit more serious, and then season 3 they're a lot older, and so get into more mature subject matter. And I think just all of it is balanced so well. I don't know how the author did this and how they translated it so well into the show. But everything, because it's about just love in general. It's romance, it's friendship, and familial love.
Siblings.
It's all balanced so well, and everything I think is given the perfect amount of focus and time so that nothing feels like, with a lot of romance stuff, it feels like the friend and family side, they just throw it in because they have to. Yeah. Like, oh, by the way, friendship and family, but anyway. Or they do, if it's about friendship or family, they'll do romance like, oh yeah, and there's romance because we have to have romance. But anyway, this show is not like that at all. Everything has such a good focus, and it feels so just genuine and happy, and like happy people just being together, and I love it so much. My favorite episode of season 2 is the finale, episode 10.
Oh, it's perfect. So beautiful.
Why is it my favorite episode? Well, everyone should already know, because prom.
And dresses and pretty dresses.
Everyone looks so good at prom.
Tara,
I'm obsessed with everyone's
Darcy,
look.
Imogen.
Amazing.
Nick, Charlie, Tao, and Elle.
Elle.
Tao and Elle matching in the most subtle way. They are so goals. I want to be them.
Yes. And then just doing their goofy dance together.
Yes. I love them so much.
They are amazing. But yeah, I love prom stuff. Again, I mean, this entire show, I think why it's clicked with me so much, or part of the reason anyway, is because I feel like a youngin' again. I feel like I'm a 13-year-old, like, getting all bubbly and excited about Twilight or something. And the prom scenes were always my favorite because I'm like, it all comes down to this. Oh my god. And it's such like a teen story.
That's what I think this show resonates with a lot of older people, because in the queer community, oftentimes you feel so alone in high school because you feel like there's no one else who's had the same experiences as you. And so seeing just a group of friends who are basically all queer and they've found each other and they're like so lovely to each other, it's just something else, you know?
Yeah.
It's something else.
And I love when couples dance together as well. I'm a sucker for a nice little dance scene. I love how they go to prom and they start off and it's all happy because Nick and Charlie are out now and everyone's just having a good time. But then at the end of the day, they're like, you know what? The only people we really want to hang out with is each other. So let's just all go home and have our own little party. And then you get that scene and it's so adorable and
then
cute.
They
and
all dance to 7 by Taylor Swift, which is my favorite Taylor Swift song. You're telling me Heartstopper has my favorite Taylor Swift song in it? This is made for me. This show is made for me.
Yeah. It's just such a fun episode. And then you also get the serious stuff because with Darcy essentially getting kicked out of her house, which happens to many teens. But then, of course, she has this lovely, gigantic friend group that is just there to welcome her with open arms at their little party. And
it's so beautiful.
So great.
And I love the conversation that she has with Tara, where she's like, I act like I'm this confident person when I'm away from home, but when I'm home, like, no one knows who I am, and I have to hide it. And it was just so beautiful. I love them. They're one of my favorite couples.
They're great.
I just love how they're so there for each other. They feel like
Yeah.
they're, like, wise beyond their years.
There isn't a bad couple, to be honest.
No, there's no boring couple.
Except for if Ben is with anyone.
Well, yes, Imogen and Ben was a mistake of epic proportions. But I do love when Imogen roasts him at the table in front of everyone. And then he, like, says, "We're being such a bitch." And then he gets told off by the teachers. And he's just this little whiny, little wimpy dude. And everyone sees it. And
everyone hates
so
him.
much.
He's alone, and so bad that he has to move schools, which is amazing. But guess what? He never gets to move schools because Tori murders him before he can.
Yep. Isn't there such a sad scene where he's like, he's so close to just like, if he were just normal and he just accepted himself, he could have this whole big community that would welcome him with open arms. But he has decided to choose this path of just like repression and just being awful, that he really created this for himself. And it's a common experience with internalized homophobia, and it's real. And yes, that makes him a very realistic character, but it doesn't mean that we have to sympathize with him totally because he's still creepy.
Yeah. Honestly, like, there's so much of him that I would be down for a redemption arc, but since he literally assaulted Charlie, I'm like, no, not interested.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Never gonna be interested. I just want him gone.
You can't come back from that.
Like, he's going through all of the same stuff that Nick is going through.
Yeah.
I don't think Nick had to assault anyone.
Nope. That's like nature versus nurture. That was something in his nature.
Yeah. I mean, there's just something wrong with the man, and I'm glad he's deceased now.
He's dead. We'll never see him again.
Anywho, so yeah, I think in this episode, there's the conversation between Tara and Darcy, and then the conversation between Nick and Charlie at the end. Both amazing scenes that just are, the acting, I can't even believe it. I'm just, every time I watch it, I'm like,
how like intimate and real it feels. Like the chemistry they really nailed with all the couples.
It's like better chemistry than I've seen, honestly, in 90% of romance stories.
Yeah, with people who are older.
All with these very young actors who have barely done anything. Yeah, if anything at all beforehand. So that's amazing. And they started all of this during COVID. They had to do like their chemistry reads and everything over Zoom, which still somehow managed to work better than I think most shows and movies. So that's amazing.
They did that with Interview with a Vampire too, which is another show that has chemistry that I can't believe that they had to do it over Zoom.
Another show that we will dedicate an entire episode to.
Yes, it's coming. It's coming.
Kayla, do you have a favorite episode of season 2?
Well, yes, my favorite episode is called Heat. This is the episode where I think it's the episode where Charlie has like a hickey on his neck, and everyone is like theorizing who it could be. And I think it's also when they also when they go to the Louvre and then he faints. So I just feel like, I don't know, the tension in this episode was built up really well, and it was still fun, but it was the first time that I was like, oh, we're starting to shift into some more serious territory. And I really liked the progression of that. And it was a very interesting episode to watch, and I enjoyed it very much.
So that brings us to season 3, which
is a doozy.
Yeah. So we've got some rough patches this season for sure. But honestly, I mean, I had heard nothing but like how depressing and difficult this season is to get through. And
because
I mean,
from
there
me.
were definitely well, no, but like that's all you hear anywhere. They're like, oh, season 3 of Heartstopper, oh god. And so I'm going in like, ooh, jeez. But honestly, like, it just, there's still so much hope. Like, dude, it is never hopeless, this show, ever, I don't think. And that's what gets me, like, if they're just, it feels like there's no hope, there's nothing left to live for, why are we even trying? Then, like, no, I don't want to watch that and sit through it. But the entire concept of this season is the road to recovery and the journey that it is. And yeah, obviously there are some very dark parts and rough patches that you have to go through. But at the end of the day, it's to get to something that is just such a relief. And I think that the show did not lose that, thankfully. It didn't go into like, oh, we need to have like several episodes focusing on this bad thing, which many shows like to do. They really like to just drag it out. This show's like, no, we're telling a story here, so we're gonna move it along. And I'm like, thank you.
They know who they are, so they know how to balance the tone and dip into the darker areas without making it seem like overly exploitative even. Because I feel like with a story like this, where it is played, the actors are younger, so there's a fine line that you need to dance of not making it exploitative and like 13 Reasons Why, possibly. And I think that this show does an excellent job of that. I still stand by my opinion from when the season first came out, when I talked about it on the podcast, about I think this is my favorite depiction of mental health in media right now, just because of that. It feels the most real to me, and it, like we were talking about, it walks the line of realism in the sense that things get dark, and also realism in the sense that things are never all that dark.
Yeah, I think I just love how honest it is about the road to recovery. I feel like there's two ways that media typically goes about it. It's either once someone asks for help, it's just magically better and everything's cured and you don't have to worry anymore. Or it's like, ugh, you shouldn't have asked for help because now it's so much worse and now everyone hates you and blah, blah, blah. And I love that this show was just so genuine in that, like, pretty much everything Charlie feared that was going to happen if he asked for help kind of did happen, unfortunately, because that's just the way, like, everyone is trying to handle it in their own way, and people are human, so they don't do it right the first time. And the show's, like, pretty honest, like, yeah, it gets worse before it can get better, but it does get better.
Yeah.
As is proven. And I loved the depiction of the, whatever you call the facility. What do you call that? It's not rehab.
The mental health facility.
The treatment facility.
Yeah.
And that's the same way. Like, yeah, there were things that weren't so great about it, but it ended up helping him, which was nice. Charlie's journey is just so satisfying this season. He really is the heart of this whole story. Yep. I feel like
you need, also after season 2, I remember being like, I need to see, there's going to be a breaking point, and I just need to see it already so we can start to get to the good stuff again.
Yeah.
So it was very cathartic to see it all happen.
Yeah, and it didn't, like, we didn't linger on stuff that makes us depressed, but we also didn't shy away from it, which was very nice.
Yeah.
I mean, what is there to say? Everyone said it already. It's
just beautiful.
It's a really good story.
Like, every single actor really stepped up their game this season because they had to. We had to be serious this season, and everyone did a great job. And thank you, Tao, for being the comedic relief and my comfort through all this.
Tao's arc is amazing in this season.
He's so wonderful in this season. I want a boyfriend like him, which I never thought I would say.
Yeah, no, not the first season. But yeah, I just love, I think it's like the last scene with him and Elle, and she tells him that she's going to art school in, like, somewhere in Europe, far away. And in season 1, his reaction to that would have been just so
Why are you
cringy.
leaving me?
Yeah, and so terrible. And instead, he's so excited for her, and you can tell, like, he's a little sad, but he's like, okay, well, I need to figure out a way to get a job so I can come visit you. And it's just so satisfying. It's like, yes, Tao!
I love it so much. He made me so happy this season.
Yeah, he was great.
The only characters I feel like were, like, not fleshed out enough for me were Tara and Darcy.
Yes.
Just because it fell into the sex education trap for me a little bit this season. Sex Education is a show that is very similar to Heartstopper. It's a lot less wholesome. It's more like rated R. But it does show, like, a lot of, like, queer relationships and just familial friendship relationships. It's all about that, too. And in the last season especially, but a little bit in season 3 as well, it really felt like they were just, like, creating characters and creating arcs just to say that, oh, we had a trans person arc on our show, and we had this representation, and we had this representation, because they became known as that type of show. And I feel like it was definitely not as bad as season 4 of Sex Education this season, but it felt a little bit like they were like, oh, we need to fit a mental health story, and so we're going to give Tara some anxiety problems, but, like, they don't really flesh it out much. There's, like, a couple scenes where they kind of go there. And then Darcy has a journey where they come out as non-binary, which also felt like they didn't go into it enough, and it wasn't, I don't know, they just kind of, like, put a few sparse scenes here and there where I feel like they could have had, like, a cooler arc with that. And it felt like they were just, and I know that they weren't doing that because the actor is non-binary, but the way that they kind of rushed it felt like they were just doing it to do it a little bit.
Yeah. There's definitely not a lot of room for the side characters this season.
Yeah.
And
it makes sense.
Yeah.
They do need to make Charlie's story the main thing.
Yeah.
But that's why it's not as great as season 2 for me.
Yeah. I definitely caught that watching it last night recently. I'm like, yeah, we really don't see much of Tara and Darcy, but it seems like there's some serious things going on, so we should.
Yeah, and I love them, and I do love the ideas that they had.
Yeah. I love that we expanded on Tori's character because I love her so much. As a fellow older sibling, I aspire to be more like her every day. So I loved to see just a bit more of her with her reaction to what Charlie's going through and everything. And also the little flirtation she has with Michael. And
I love Michael.
Yeah, he's adorable. So I loved that. Season 4 is a must at this point because there's so much left up in the air.
I know.
You can't just leave me off with, like, how is Nick going to tell Charlie about him going far away to college? What are Tao and Elle going to do?
Also, Nick clearly, I believe, has anxiety, so we need to start exploring that more.
And I have to say, I just saw, I didn't mean to, but it came up on my YouTube thing. I just saw a clip of the latest comic, a little panel from it, and I was like, oh yeah, we are going to get into Nick's anxiety for sure.
Good.
There's so much. I mean, it's a satisfying ending. I mean, we have our characters quite matured now, so everyone's getting into the segs, which is lots of fun. Again, handled very elegantly, I would say. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel exploitative, and it also doesn't feel like they're being too, ooh, we don't want to show anything too much, or talk about anything, which is nice. We also have Imogen and Sahar. I love them.
We need more of that in season 4.
Yes.
Imogen, also one of my favorite characters this season. I also did want to say I love that they fleshed out Tori and Charlie's relationship more because as a sibling, it was very relatable. I love the whole, like, it's you and me against the world. At the end of the day, if you have a bond like that with your sibling, that's how it is. That's how it be sometimes. And I was like, this is me and Emily.
Yep. And I love that scene where he's like, you have so much love to give. You don't have to give it all to me. And she's like, but I want to.
I know. That's how I feel.
Like, that's literally me.
Emily gets me the most. So
yeah. Like, why would I give it to anyone else. So I love them. Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite episode. My favorite episode is episode 5, Winter. This is when Charlie has returned from the mental health facility and he's getting back into the swing of things. And it doesn't go too smoothly. We have this terrible Christmas at his house where everyone's just being awful. And then he's like, you know what? Forget this. I'm going to Nick's. And he pretty much goes to Nick's house and has a great time. And Tori even joins him, which I was very happy with. And the whole thing is just... I love this episode because it starts off kind of like, oh, God, and what's going to happen? This is not going good. But then by the end, it's just so cute and happy. And you get New Year's as well, which is a lot of fun.
Nick gets a new dog.
Yes, the new dog Henry is so adorable. Yeah, it's just a really fun episode, but it also has just some nice themes, especially between Charlie and Tori. Because Tori's kind of like, hey, you know, I know you feel like no one at the house is on your side, but I'm always on your side, so you don't have to abandon me. And
I know, I felt that so much. I was like, yeah, Tori, come with him.
I know, it was such a, because I'm like, yes, Charlie, go, get the hell out of here, I want you to go to Nick's. But then also Tori, I'm like, no, don't leave Tori. So I'm like, Tori, just, you come
That's
too.
another thing. I love that Tori and Nick's relationship was a little more developed too, because like she's the one who sees most how wonderful he is to Charlie, and she's like, okay, I get it. As much as I'm protective over him, I will allow you into the fold.
Yes, I love her.
My favorite episode is called Journey. It's the one where Nick and Charlie both journal about their time apart when Charlie's in the facility, and it breaks me to my core. It really shows what kind of trajectory Nick is going to have to go on when he inevitably splits off from Charlie to go to school. It really sets up a lot of that emotional storyline, and I also felt, as someone who relates heavily to Nick, I definitely was relating to him a lot in this episode. And the scene where he cries in Tao's arms will forever haunt me, and I was actually sobbing. This was the episode that I had to stop. I was going to watch the whole season in one go, and after this episode, I was like, I'm going to take a break. I couldn't do it. I was like, I'm just going to go downstairs and have dessert, and then I'll keep going. I had dessert, and then I got upstairs, and I was like, I can't keep going. I have to wait till tomorrow. I have to sleep.
See, I'm like so the opposite, because when I watched that episode, I'm just so anxious for it to be over, and I'm like, okay, and I want to go to the next one, please, quickly.
Yeah, that's how I was when I was reading the book. I literally flew through the depressing pages because I was like, I want this to be over.
Yep. Yeah, it's a great episode.
I love it so much. I also love that we get to see more of Nick's perspective, because as much as there's a lot of his perspective, it is Charlie's show, and so that section was like Nick hijacked it, and it was fun for a second.
Speaking of which, should we get into our favorite characters? Which you could probably tell by now what our favorite characters are.
Mine is Nick's and Emily's is Charlie.
Yeah. I will say Charlie and Tori, though. I just both of them I'm obsessed with, and they are my new comfort characters probably for all time.
Yep. I would say Imogen's a close second for me, and then, of course, Tao in Season 3. I love them.
Yeah. Yeah, Charlie, like I said, just feels like the heart of the story, and he's main character energy in the best way. And literally from the moment I read the first page of the book, I felt like I just clicked with him, and he and I were on somehow the same wavelength. I'm like, I just understand this character so much. Plus, he's just so unbearably adorable, and I love him to death. And then Tori is just the perfect mood of the older sister who seems like she does not care about any of the stupid stuff going on, but really just the fierce older sister protective energy is beautiful, and I love it.
She cares
I love her
the most
sarcasm.
out of them all.
Yeah. And I would love to see that expanded upon even more in season 4, but we shall see.
Yeah, I hope they explore her more. I know that there's other books that the author has written about her.
I definitely want to read her book, Solitaire.
Well, favorite quotes?
Oh, quotes. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3. I have 5 quotes.
I have 3 like specific ones, and then I just have like scenes.
These are like some classic quotes, but one of them is "Don't let anyone make you disappear," which is one
Love that.
people talk about all the time. Such just a lovely sentiment of like, yeah, for real, guys, life is way too short to let stupid people bring you down or waste your time. Don't even go there. Of course, the classic, as we mentioned before, and I have to say it in the accent or else it doesn't work. I'm not like homophobic. I'm an ally. I'm literally dead.
Perfectly
That's
delivered.
amazing.
Perfectly delivered.
That quote killed me the first time I heard it.
That became a huge meme when the show
Yes.
first came out too.
I've seen the TikToks.
My favorite, I talked about the "I need you to understand," and then also when Nick says, "I wish I'd met you when I was younger. I wish I had known then what I know now." It hit me so hard. I almost started crying just then.
Oh no, it's been a long day.
It has. This has not been a great day for me, folks.
Oh. One of my favorite Charlie quotes is, "You don't get to make me feel like crap anymore just because you hate yourself." I say that literally in my head just on the daily. This is one of the many times he puts Ben in his place. And again, this quote is just like, people need to remember this one, because the only reason that people are trying to bring you down and make you feel like crap about yourself is because they feel like crap about themselves. So don't even waste time on that insecurity. Love that. My favorite Tori quote is, "I don't think he's straight."
Oh my god, yeah, when she's just lingering in the background.
Literally just the epitome of her character, like, saying it how it is, what everyone else is gonna refuse to say. She's like, "I just watched this man give you the longest cuddle in history, and you're supposed to be just like, oh, best bro." She's like, yeah, right. I love that. That whole scene is amazing.
I love this moment when she takes the phone out of Nick's brother's hand and throws it down the stairs.
Yes. Talk about my brother like that again, and I will end you. Love that one.
Yep, that's a great line.
Yep.
I also put in for season 2, the whole scene where Nick and Tao talk about Charlie and how Nick is like getting worried about him. I love a Nick and Tao scene. As you know.
Yep.
I just love them so much. And that scene, I always go back to that scene. It's really good. And then for season 3, I put this scene where Imogen is talking about how like she doesn't feel like she knows herself at all because she's finally figuring out all these things about herself. And I was very relatable, and also just compulsive heteronormativity, you know?
Yep. Happens to the best of us.
Happens to the best of us.
My last quote is a Nick Nelson quote from season 1. And it's, "I know people have hurt you and you feel like I'd be better off without you, but I need you to know that my life is way better because I met you." And literally, I almost started crying just there.
I'm telling you, Nick lines destroy me.
Oh, like, it's just so exactly what needed to be said for him and exactly what Charlie needed to hear. And it was... that whole scene is beautiful, but that quote especially just makes my heart like, oh my god.
That's the best. The best. They are the best.
Yeah, they're my favorite couple right now, and they will be in my favorite couples of all time probably for the rest of my life. So,
Agreed.
Yeah, and that quote kills me every time.
I think that's our conversation.
Our next episode, hopefully, is going to be a review of the new Daisy Ridley movie, Cleaner, because it finally came out on digital.
Yay!
So, definitely stay tuned for that. That'll probably be a quicker, less intense episode. We were getting heavy into the emotions this one, but next time we're just going to talk about a dumb action movie, so that'll be lots of fun.
Can we talk about what we've been watching really fast, rapid fire?
Yes, we shall.
Okay, I have such a long list. I've been watching so much recently. So whenever I have free time over here in Wales, I always want to watch something, but I always end up watching YouTube. So I haven't watched a lot. But then this week was different. I was watching so much stuff instead of YouTube. So I'll start off with the farthest in the past. I watched Agatha All Along. I finished it. It was really good. It fell apart a little bit for me at the end, but other than that, very entertaining. Had some WandaVision vibes, but like also was its own thing. It was very good. Next, I watched The Electric State with Millie Bobby Brown. Millie Bobby Brown's new movie. Everyone hates this movie. It's not great, but I wouldn't say it's horrible. Like, I went into it with low expectations, and I had a fun time. And yes, there are like those millennial like jokes where it's like, he's right behind me, huh? Anyone who has watched it knows exactly what scene I'm talking about. But other than that, I thought it was like a cool story. It was really fun. There was an emotional undercurrent that I thought was pretty strong. Again, not great, but I enjoyed myself. Next, I watched Time Stalker. This is a movie that came out, I can't remember, like a couple years ago. It has Jacob Anderson from Interview with the Vampire. He plays Louis. He's in it. And whoever designed the costumes for this movie knew what they were doing. All of his looks were impeccable. I want all of his outfits. And literally everyone, too. Everyone else looked great. It was a very weird movie, but I got the message and I thought it was cool. It was like an entertaining way to put it across. And I think I'll watch it again because I think I could get more out of it if I watch it multiple times. Also, I want to see those costumes again. The next thing I watched was Adolescence. This is that new series on Netflix about the 13-year-old boy who kills his classmate. And it's told in 4 episodes that are all shot in one shot. And I don't know, it was like almost too real for me because it's like, this is an issue that has been on my mind for a while, and I think I'm very glad that someone finally made a show about it that like is getting a lot of attention. Sometimes from the wrong people for the wrong reasons, but at least it's starting a conversation. And the boy in it had never acted before in his life, and I'm very surprised because he was like menacing. I was scared of him. But anyway, very good. It also made me sob. The last episode. Anyway, next I went to the movies and saw a movie called Black Bag. It felt like half of a movie. It was about 2 people played by what's his name, Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett. I love Cate Blanchett, and she was gorgeous, beautiful, amazing in this movie. But the movie itself was not great. It's about 2, like, I don't know, like secret agents, I guess, and they're married, and so they have to, like, keep secrets from each other if they're going on certain missions, and, like, it's about them sort of, like, keeping secrets from each other and then ending up teaming up together. It literally felt like half a movie. It ended, and I was like, where's the rest of it? The stakes were not high enough. The French fried potatoes were not there.
We're not crispy.
No, they were not. They were undercooked. It's a Steven Soderbergh movie.
Oh.
Which, like, after I saw that, I was like, okay, I think I get it. Because I think it was just supposed to be, like, an interesting idea for a script, but it felt like half of an idea. It felt like they could have fleshed it out a little bit more. Anyway, next, I finished Severance. Y'all. I wasn't disappointed. I was proven wrong, and I'm so glad that I was proven wrong. The final episode had me weeping. This whole story has been this tragic love story the whole time from the beginning, and we didn't even know until like maybe the last half of season 2, and it's been up to the ante. And they literally, it was literally like an Orpheus and Euripides. I can't say the word.
Eurydice.
Eurydice. Let me say that again. It was like an Orpheus and Eurydice retelling, because I won't go into spoilers, but it was beautiful the way that they executed it, and I thought it was gonna just keep building and then it would end, but it did not. It gave a complete story, but you still know that there's more to come, and I'm still very excited for what's to come, which is exactly what I wanted, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I finally like this show.
Finally.
Lastly, my new burgeoning obsession. I started watching Hannibal, and I finished the first season. I'm getting slowly just more and more obsessed as I keep watching it. So people have said that Interview with a Vampire took a lot of inspiration from Hannibal. So I was like, all right, I gotta give it a try. And yes, it did indeed take a lot of inspiration. I also just love, like, it's obvious that the show itself took inspiration from Interview with a Vampire, so it's like kind of a cool little back and forth that they have. And there's also a bunch of other horror references. There's multiple scenes where The Shining is present. There's a scene in a bathroom the red bathroom, it looks exactly like the red bathroom from The Shining. There's also another scene in a bathroom where it's kind of a green bathroom, and they're looking at a dead body in a bathtub, and I'm like, this is also doing The Shining. And I'm sure there's a lot more references that I'm not even picking up on yet, but it just feels like a love letter to horror while also being its own new thing, and I love it so much. And I'm going to start season 2 very short. Actually, I've already watched the first episode of season 2, but I'm going to keep going as soon as I can because it's so good. Anyway, that is all I'll say for now.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely far behind on that too. But I hear nothing
it's
but
been
good
over
things.
for years now, and I'm finally picking it up. I was worried that it would be like, same way that I was with Interview with a Vampire, that it would be like too cable TV and cheesy. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Hannibal does suffer from that a little bit more than Interview with a Vampire, because Interview with a Vampire also has a couple moments where I'm like, this is cable TV. But Hannibal has it more so. But honestly, they really both overcome it greatly, and they're both really good.
Nice. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. That's more than I've been watching.
I know.
What have I been watching? Well, Heartstopper. Heartstopper. And I did finish Agatha All Along, which, as you might have guessed, is my other obsession that I've currently been thinking about nonstop. Is it only because Joe Locke is in it? Well, probably. Well, yeah. But yeah, so I had to check it out because he was in it, and I'm like, if I don't have Heartstopper season 4, I need something. And basically, very much enjoyed it. Enjoy it the longer I think about it. And I have many, many thoughts that I want to get into. So there will be an episode dedicated to Agatha All Along as I expand upon my review of the show. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. Follow us on our social media, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at We Just Want to Talk Movies. Subscribe to our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts to keep up with all our latest episodes. And that's all for this episode.
And we will catch you on the flick side.